Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Suits and Shoes.
Saw things in me that I did not see, and a long time to realize it. And
I know in my life, I often get asked,
this is a real life person, a real life situation, and you've probably experienced it. Says, are you contemplating suicide?
something happened, transitioned to where you had positive influence in your life and had a positive income. I look at the sky almost every night when I come home in the evening. I'm like, wow, God is extraordinary. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Suits and Shoes. We're well on season 2. 2025 has been an amazing start, and I just see God's favor not only in the lives of the people here in our community, but across the country. Things seem to be working out for the better, and I hope that your year continues to grow in favor before God. And today we have a special guest, someone that's played a role in my life and teaching me a lot of the things that I've learned over the course of the last few years. His name is Conrad Griggs. Conrad has had an exciting career, everything from a police officer in city council, business development for one of the bigger banks in our region. And so, Conrad, what is it like to be Conrad?
Well, that's a good question. I've never thought of that, but I think if I had to analyze myself, I'd say that being a servant leader, I enjoy people. I enjoy watching them have success.
Yeah.
I enjoy having a good life, and hopefully for all the right reasons to serve God, and it's with serving people.
Yeah. I know a lot of times there's a dispute about the impacts early childhood has on the success through our lives. You've experienced I think, humbly speaking, a tremendous amount of success in your life from the people you've met and the impacts you've had. Now, I want to ask you, what impacts did your early childhood have on your success?
Probably my early childhood on my success is kind of like, and it was a negative childhood. I was in a very dysfunctional family, abusive father, our abusive stepfather. My real father, biological father, was killed in the war. And my mom divorced after the abuse became more than she could handle when about 11 years old. And I became the young adult and I had 3 sisters.
Yeah.
And an aging grandma and a mother that worked. And so, but I think people that influenced me, that I had a lot of respect for, that saw things in me that I did not see, and a long time to realize it. And out of that, I think that's what my success, because they were successful, and I could glean from them that their personality and why they were successful.
What can one do to have those good people? Because you came from a kind of a hard uprising, but then something happened, transitioned to where you had positive influence in your life and had a positive income. How can someone who has a negative surrounding right now, or a negative influence, how can they break out of that and have that positive impact in their life early on or when they're younger?
Well, for me, that's a great question. Reflecting back, for me, I think the Lord, for some reason, I should have been dead at 5 years old.
Wow.
I was pushed out of a tree and landed on my head on a concrete sidewalk. So that may answer a lot of reasons I'm very crazy as I am. But I should have gone into a coma. The guys that pushed me out of the tree were older. And instead of letting me lay there and run to get my mother, they picked me up and made me walk home.
Yeah.
But they were holding on to me. If they hadn't done that, I'd have gone into a coma and probably died. I had a fractured skull, brain, and obviously severe concussion.
Yeah.
So from that point on, it seems like the Lord just had his hand on me.
Yeah.
All the time, whether I realized it or not. And like I said, there are people that, just were good to me.
Yeah.
And I appreciated it. And so I try to give back from what I've learned back to other people, because people gravitate to kind people.
Yeah. I know in my life, I often get asked, who was the major player that influenced you and who you are today? Similar to you, I think it's a wide array of people. I think God has put an army of people in my life. From fifth grade school teacher, Miss Reagan, who pulled me out of trouble and told me the consequences thereof, of my actions and behavior, and helped impact and influence me all the way to today. Leaders like yourself that are helping shape my values and morals in life. But if I was to attribute it to one person, it'd be my dad. From a young age, he mentored me. He's the one that pushed me to start this business. I would have never started any of my companies without his kind of empowerment in my life. Who was that one figure of the men that you had that really shaped you who you are today?
Wow. That's a good question. It's hard to really put on one person because like you, there are different stages. I did not have a parental influence, like you, especially on the masculine side. My mother was hammering out what you can do. But if I may, I'd like to mention three people. Number one was when I went to a small school and my mother moved back to a bigger town. And so I was declared ineligible, a pretty good basketball player. And so I got mean and I got into a lot of trouble. And one night, me and another guy were out late. We couldn't have been out.
Yeah.
And this car pulled up, rolled the window down, and there was our basketball coach.
Wow.
And he was part of an organization called the Moonlight Gamblers.
Wow.
And they would hijack liquor trucks. They were in big trouble.
Yeah.
And he told us that. And he pretty much told us that if we caught us again, our consequence was going to be severe.
Wow.
And he made such an impression on me that I straightened out instantly.
Yeah.
And we never did that again.
Wow.
And I've never forgotten that to this day. The other one too was probably my high school coach.
Yeah.
He was a Lutheran, went to church, and he tongue in cheek said, "If you want to play my basketball team, you're going to church." So he picked me up and put me in church, and we had a really great pastor that was a delight. And so through those people and somebody I worked with in the dry cleaning business was at college, my junior college coach, Cotton Fitzsimmons, who wound up, he's dead now, but he was with the Phoenix Suns. And so just people like that just had early influence on my Dan Callahan, who was a great guy.
Yeah. It seems like in your life and in my life, that these role models were detrimental to our success. But unfortunately, today you have an entire generation, and now it seems like 2 or 3 generations that are, for lack of a better word, rebellious and not looking up to mentors, not reaching out for guidance, and kind of the mindset of, hey, I got this on myself. What would you share with those people today that don't want to seek out mentorship, that don't want to listen to the older generation that have this wise counsel?
I think that right now, what I'm seeing, and I do follow a lot on the video and on Twitter and things like that, and I think we see this local. There's a tremendous hunger amongst the young people, and I don't know the Generation Z, Q's, all that, but the younger people, and there seems to be a lack of foundation that they're hungry for. They want this bad, and it's nobody's fault necessarily. It's a cultural thing, and you see this tremendous hunger. So I would say, be patient, be loving and caring, and always be available, but be patient. And every opportunity, teach them about Jesus and the love of Jesus, because once they grasp who he is and what he's about, it will free them to be free.
Yeah, that's powerful. As we transition into your early career, what helped you choose what path to take? Because just reading your biography, it's like, wow, it seems like you've done everything. And so we'll dive down into that. But first step, like, what was your first step, and how did you decide to take that first step into your first job?
Well, ironically enough, I really wanted to be a basketball coach. And like I say, I was supposed to play basketball for Cotton Fitzsimmons at Mobile Junior College. I was one of the local kids. He had a couple of local kids that he didn't have to pay scholarships to. And so he got me a job at a Catholic school, and I coached them. And I realized that I had a tremendous ability to get in young people's heads and convince them that they could do things they didn't think they could do.
Wow.
And so that was very, very rewarding. But I was in that, but as I approached that as a career, I realized I was in it for the wrong reasons. Rather than developing young people, I was in it for winning basketball. And that was the wrong reason. So eventually it evolved out where I wanted to become a police officer. And that's when I went through driving ambulances, driving hearses and working in an emergency room, things like that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to become a police officer, which was really interesting because it paralleled my military career at that time. And so, and then as I graduated on, I changed careers several different times.
Yeah. It seems like you've always pursued something that you're passionate about, even if it was a stepping stone into a further goal. Do you have an opinion or something you've learned through your life in regards to, hey, yes, pursue different desires in different seasons of your life? You range from police officer, city council to business development for a really successful bank. Or do you recommend someone just to stick to one thing their entire life?
I have thought about this. And what is interesting, and I was talking to somebody very seldom in my life, when I decided I wanted to do stuff, I failed. But when something came in front of me, it was almost like God said, this is what I want you to do. When I realized I'd screwed off enough in college and I wasn't going to get a college degree, I needed to get a job in the police department at that time. Was during where the police officers were pigs and they thought, so it wasn't hard to get an application for the police department. And so when I progressed with that, and then office to then was interesting thing, which I had prayed a long time ago, that if he would get me a scholarship and let me graduate from college, I would marry and get married and raise a Christian family. Well, I didn't do my part. And so next thing I know, we get the law enforcement assistant program when with college. I graduated from Drury University under the law enforcement assistant program. Mm-hmm. And when I walked across the stage, one of the pastors that I is now the president of Drury University. And so I was about, how you walk through a stage. I was about 20 feet from it. And he hollers out in a blue line voice, and everybody laughed for about 5 or 6 rows. But, and then when I got this certificate, it's like when it took one step by and I said, oh my God, he did it.
Yeah.
He gave me a college, and I did marry a wife. We did raise a Christian family. So never, ever, ever give up on the dreams. And if you're asking God for them things, and those things, trust Him.
Yeah.
Trust Him. You do that a lot.
Yeah.
And look. And so, and there's more heading. And so, that something I heard one time a pastor say, do not pray for temporal things. And I've never heard anything so wrong in my life, because what does Jesus talk about? The man who said, if your son asks you for a loaf of bread, you're going to give him a rock. If he asks for a fish, you're going to give him a snake. He said, no, you men are evil, give these good things. How much more will a father give to you?
Yeah.
And he hasn't run out of money, and he hasn't run out of kindness, and he hasn't run out of love.
Yeah.
And he never would. So you got to trust.
Yeah.
And you really do. It takes courage to trust.
Oh, most definitely. I think that's the highlight of my early career thus far, or I should say, venture in building a business is complete faith. The best advice I got was faith is taking the next step without seeing it. Too often we're waiting to see the next step, and an entire life goes by waiting, but you just have to take that step. Whether it's a business venture, a new job opportunity, a travel opportunity, we wait for the stars to dawn. But guess what? Maybe because I've only been, I'm only 28, 29 years old, I'm yet to see any stars align. I look at the sky almost every night when I come home in the evening. I'm like, wow, God is extraordinary. His He's omnipotent. I look at the stars, and for me, that kind of builds my faith in how great God is. And I'm yet to see all the stars on mine. And it's like a word or a message to me that the stars will never align, but God is always there. So why not take that step? Why not pursue that new opportunity? But there has been challenging times. I've experienced many a time. Sometimes it's multi-time day. Attorneys issue you a demand letter, a client backs out, another challenge. The bank didn't give the interest rate that you thought they were going to give you. And it seems like, oh, and this employee's disgruntled. And then you hand to the note and you unwrap this note. It's like some guy scribbles or some person scribbles that they want to blow you up. And it's like all this bit of one day. What? Sure. And so it's like, that's the point of, trusting God. And you can have a cup half empty mentality, or you can have a cup half full mentality. The world will continue to spin. The stars will continue to shine. What will you do? In my life, I think one of my most challenging days was early on. It was like month 8 of starting our business. And it was the first time we ran out of cash. And it was kind of a scary moment. I now realize that, startups and early companies and small businesses run out of cash all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was like the first time in my life, I'm like, wow, this is kind of scary. And I remember sitting on the ground in my office on the floor, hugging my cash can, trying to throw up. I can't throw up. So I realized I haven't eaten in a few days. And in that moment, I'm like, there's nothing else I can do. I've done everything that I could from my side, and I'm just going to continue with my day. I can't print cash; it's illegal. And there's, I've sold everything I could sell, and I just have to continue going in faith. Not even like a couple hours later, I get a call from like a prospect client that says, "Hey, it's end of the year. I need to spend some more money. I want to pay you a deposit for a vehicle." And within a few hours, he wire transfers us $300,000. This is like 4 years ago. This is a lot of money. This is pre-inflation for a new company. Like, that's a year's worth of revenue for us. And it was just such a life-changing moment and experience for us. I know there's got to be a lot of moments like that in your life, just looking through the different careers that you've been. But what was one crucial or one low point in your life where you saw God come through for you?
I mean, a lot of low point.
I can't even imagine. So let's share a few. You could give me one or two. Or
Let me give you one right off the top of my head that I'm thinking of. I went to work at Merrill Lynch. I went from being a police officer to insurance business, and then I got involved in the brokerage business, and that my first year was a different firm, which I'm not remembering because they're a very good company, and that didn't work out. So I went to another one, and then I will mention that Merrill Lynch opened an office in Springfield, and so I was one of the originals, that me and about 7 or 8 other people, and so my business was going to end. In the process, I was moving up the ladder in the military, and we hit that in where there's Desert Storm. And as I became higher in rank, I became a battalion commander, which it's not a one weekend anymore, or 2 weeks. It was like months that you'd be spending in meetings and briefings, and training, and so on and so forth. And so at the end of it, it was probably the worst year that I ever had. And my wife was a school teacher. And so there was a job opening in the National Guard, and the job description was like somebody had written my biography. And it was perfect. I applied for it. I didn't get it because they gave it to somebody lesser degree because they wanted his wife. So I went back and I talked to my wife, Bonnie, and I said, I either got to get in this business or get out. And we prayed about it. And so there was this system that I could buy. It was very expensive. Cost $13,000. And we had to borrow the money, had to buy computers and all that stuff. We went to Utah to train. And I remember going to my boss out of Kansas City, and I was telling him what I was going to do. He actually cried.
Wow.
He was so moved. That kick-started my business. And it just so happened that at that time, a bunch of Merrill Lynch brokers had left. So they gave an incentive program, and you had to meet a criteria of X number of $1 million over, I think, a 5-year period, if I'm not mistaken. And since my production was so crappy, I got a low low bid. Well, I made it a year in advance and I got a bunch of, anyway, I got the $100,000 check.
Yeah.
And it was just things like that that kept falling in place. And it was because of the Lord. The Lord put things in place. And I missed a lot of opportunities because of my lack of confidence and lack of direction.
Yeah.
And so in the management level, ownership level, where you are, it's very important to make sure that every individual that you work for understands their worth. And their worth isn't where it is now. Their worth is greater than that.
Yeah.
And if you can pull that out of them, it's amazing. I think Jack Stack is probably one of the greatest examples of that. He is the one, to my view, his greatest capacity to pull out people's talent that they don't know they have until he pulls it out.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I remember when you was on this podcast not too long ago, we spoke about that very subject and him attributing his success to his people and constant pivoting, not being stuck in one way, but pivoting, changing, going against the norm. It seems very essential. Too many times we think what got us to this day is what's going to get us, to the next level. But oftentimes that very thing that got us to a certain level can be the reason, of our downfall. And so, making sure that we're continuously improving and self-developing. I noticed for you, you're 80 years old and only 80 years old, and you're still evolving and developing and reading books and going to speaking engagements and organizing events and business development for a major bank. And it seems like there's no retirement for you. What is the vision, or what is the goal for you in the present day?
Right now, my goal is, and that I'm glad you said, if I may, you and I know each other well enough that doing the faith in business is what the bank has hired me to do, which I really love doing this. And so this is crazy, but I hope people that listen to this understand the gravity of how God works. There is nothing that he can't do for you if you listen to him and trust him. So anyway, we're getting ready for the summit, and we're going to have a summit next year, and we're doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden God said, you're going to Branch. You're taking faith in business to Branch. Well, I go, okay. I text a friend of mine who's very well known in Branson, and he gave me a thumbs up. So I have no clue. So I'm walking in to another function, and one of the ladies, a good friend of mine, said, I just got talking to so-and-so down in Branson, Dr. Johnson with the School of the Ozarks, College of the Ozarks. And they're interested in this. Well, there's my venue. So the prayer is we'll keep that going, see how it goes. But God wants this 94X and faith in business in Branson.
Yeah. Talk to me about 94X. I still remember the day you came to my office and told me about 94X. So I literally have made a series.
You remember that?
Yeah, I sparked a series of sermons in my life, and I've spoken in front of very large crowds on that very subject.
This will be patient with me. This will take some time, but I hope people, because it shows you the majesty and the gravity of God and how he works. Mick and I have been friends almost 14 years. And I worked for him originally. I actually, in his previous life in another bank, I became a stockholder, became an advisor, and then eventually the person that introduced me to him got sick, and I wound up taking her position and retired. So anyway, he was at Regent Bank now, and Cindy was also there, and we both worked together. So I opened an account. And so in the process, I happened to be just going by. At that time, I was unemployed and really wasn't looking for anything. And I met Sean Copeland. And Sean is just, anybody that's ever met him, he's just bubbly all the time, just real deal. So we got to talking. We'll come to find out his son is a baseball player. And at that time, he's about, I think, 11 or 12 years old. And my grandson was a professional baseball player in the independent league. So we got to talk, and we had a comment. So I'm home, being worthless, and I'm challenge surfing, and there's the Little League World Series regional. And his team that he was coaching in Oklahoma was playing, I think, against the Texas team or another regional team. And so I'm watching it because I want to see how well and his team's not doing well. So all of a sudden, this kid throws his fastball, hits this kid in the head and drops him.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's laying there. And I'm sitting there watching this thing, and this kid tells everybody to get away from him, leave alone. He gets up, he goes to first base. And the camera goes over and shows this picture, and he's sobbing uncontrolled. You could see him body quivering. He's sobbing so hard. The kid that was hit takes his helmet off, sits it on the ground, walks over and hugs this kid. So it was just unbelievable. And ESPN still shows this all the time. So the next time I saw a shot, I told him I saw this, and he explained to me what happened. And it's in his book. I'd encourage reading. But because he's a man who lives by his faith, and you can glean a lot from his, because he's taught the walk. But anyway, he said we'd promised the kids to ride to Liberty. And so we lost the game. They were kind of bummed, but they wanted to go to Outback. 15-minute drive, 15 minutes. He says, my phone blew up. ESPN, New York Times, Washington Post, Today's Show, Good Morning America, Vanity Fair, Sports Illustrated, and on and on and on, wanting to interview, but the both of them.
Yeah.
Well, what had happened? They always had a devotion before the game. And of course, in Little League, when you have kids, a lot of parents out there will know the families are there also. So they'd have a devotion every morning. 9 o'clock the night before this game, there's not on his door, and his kids were. He said, why are you guys doing? You should be in bed. He said, well, the team were playing. I don't know if they could join us for the devotion.
Wow.
And they did. And that just went all through. And so this is the kind of person. And in his book, he tells a story. Have I got time to share this?
Yeah, yeah.
And what really anyway, I took this book and I read it. And I went to Mick and I said, I got to do this for you. And he talked about it, thought about it. Here we are. But anyway, in this book, he tells, it's kind of a funny story. But a lot of people remember '08. I did quite a bit because I was helping a friend of mine who was managing the Merrill Lynch office. And we'd gotten into a real trouble. And so he tells about this book that he needed $3 million. They just bought the bank, Region Bank. And he needed $3 million. And the banks were going under, just boom, boom, boom. And so he said, I texted everybody, he said, we put 84 letters. We typed up 84 letters. I pulled mine out because I didn't have any money. Thank God my wife worked or we wouldn't have even eaten. And he said, so my secretary's getting ready to mail these letters. Phone rings. Lady answers the phone. He says, Sean, this is the Treasury Department. He says, stop. Don't go mail those letters. It's too late. So he picks up the phone. And, let me back up. I missed out. So he'd been praying to get this money. And he got no response. And he was mad at God. He was so mad, he didn't even want to go to church. But he decided to go. Well, he went late. And the only place he could sit was on the front row. And they were playing music. So I don't remember what the song was. As so I just broke down sobbing. Just uncontrolled. I don't know why. Just broke down sobbing. So then, going back to where I was. So anyway, picks up the phone. And this lady said, Mr. Copeland, how are you doing? He said, well, that's going to depend upon this phone call. And he says, well, as you know, there's been over 400 banks that have gone out here. And the government has decided that we got to put a stop to it. And so we're going to infuse some money into some regional banks, and your bank's been chosen. And we're going to wire you a check today for $3 million.
Wow.
Now, if that's not a godsend, what is? There is no way. And so, this is not just a story. This is a real life person, a real life situation. And you've probably experienced those things. You just talked about the trash can incident.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, boom. I'm reading a book basically by Rick Warren, kind of tells the same story.
Yeah.
And so the two parts, if you're going to walk with God, let God lead you. Don't be afraid. Trust Him.
Yeah.
He knows more about what He wants you to do in His kingdom than you do.
Yeah.
So let Him have free reign and get out of His way. It'll be okay. And I've got a little more time on my hands than you do, so I've paid a lot.
That's amazing. So what does the number 94 stand for?
The 94, yeah, good question. Sean kept getting these numbers in his head. It didn't make any sense. It was 160 divided by 1.7, which is 94. Well, the 160, this is extremely important. This is why we do business development. So the 160 is the number of hours an employee spends with you a month. 1.7 is the amount of hours they spend in church.
Wow.
Who's got the most influence? You do.
Wow.
If you treat your people like Jesus said to treat your neighbor, are you going to have a lot of turnover? Probably not. Are you going to have a lot of productivity? Probably so.
Wow.
And when you treat people like this, and I've read countless employers that do, we do this. And they're just reading a book about the CDO for a Christian family. It's talking about situations like this. And you manage with love.
Yeah.
And these are human beings, and they got their own problems. And if you can take that burden off them, like Jesus takes that burden off of us, it just makes our life a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it means. And so if you can get into the business world and have employees and employers understand that God has his best interest, that you're providing a service in the kingdom, it's great. And we're seeing a tremendous revolution now going on towards this direction. And we need to help where God tells us to help. Because it's going to be good for the people.
Amen to that. I feel like you're the ultimate networker. I remember recently when we were at the local country club, and it's I think the most prestige country club in town of these 7+ country clubs here in this area, and you're shaking hands, saying hello to everyone, and you know them by name, from the waitress, the general manager there, the chef came out at one point to say hi to you, bank executives, I mean, some pretty high A-listers. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say their names or not, but it seems like you were networking and knew everyone, and everyone knew you. What is the reasoning for you to network on such a large caliber, and how can someone learn to network like you?
If you had asked me that 3 years ago, I couldn't give you an answer. But I think legitimate love from people. People are fascinating. I mean, you're fascinating. Your background and what you've done in your 28 years of life or 27 years of life is fascinating. So how did you do this? So if I get in and listen to you, and listening, and if I may share a little bit about listening, that's interesting. But the loving people and listening to them and engaging them where they feel they have a self-worth, that you really care for them. I'm horrible on names, so I have to work really, really, really hard. And most people are kind enough to understand, and they will help me through that. But when you love people and care for them, it is a hoot. It is a lot of fun. And I enjoy talking to these people because, age does have some kind of an influence in the sense that somebody cares. And I think I don't consider myself a networker per se. I consider myself somebody who just loves people.
Yeah.
When I was at church, we decided to start a thing called Stephen Ministry. And so this was a lay ministry type thing for helping people who getting over some things. They just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
So the only place we could go was to Berkeley, California on the campus. I call it Berkeley. If you've ever been there, you'd understand. And so we go there, we spent 2 weeks, and I'll never forget this. So we learned a lot about listening. So the first day was breakout session. And I hate breakouts, role playing. I hate it. And so there's this young lady sitting in front of me. And she was very reluctant. And I was trying to, so we got done early. And I looked over at her and I said, when did you get out of prison? She said, how did you know I was in prison? I said, you've got time down on your hand. Well, if you go like this. covers her hand. And I said, hey, it's cool. I used to be a police officer. I know what that is. That girl and I became friends. Wow. She was the student speaker at the banquet that night. She elevated to that. Wow. You could just see her confidence grow and radiate. There wasn't a dry eye in the house when she got down. Wow. When I was with an insurance company, after you got so far, they would send you on this kind of little retreat type thing for 6 hours, for one day to the next. We learn about how to listen. Mm-hmm. And listening is very, very, very hard. But when you listen and you understand body language and can glean out things that you hear, for an example, you walk by somebody and said, how you doing? Okay. Store. What do you mean, okay? Didn't sound like you're okay. Well, I'm okay. No, come on, talk to me. You'd be surprised. Wow. But people will tell you. And you can comfort them. And they want this off their chest. They need this. And so you got to care. Yeah. And, people cared for me. People took me under the wing. I didn't serve it. But God put it there for me. And thank God I had the acumen to understand.
Yeah, that's very powerful. I know for me, listening to you explain it, I never really looked at it that way. I always looked at networking like opportunities. You're always one phone call, one person away from meeting the opportunity that you've been praying, waiting for. But looking at the level of genuineness that you put on to networking really opens my eyes to see that it's not just one way. Like, how can this person help me? It's got to be two-way. How can I help this person? What is another situation in your life whenever you're just walking by someone, like, hey, how are you doing? And it led to something far greater than you ever expected.
Yeah. You asked me a question about that? Yeah. Oh, my gosh, it's happened several times. Right now, I can't draw one specific incident out of that, but I know that, let me give you an example that I heard. It wasn't me, but in this same 2-week deal, we had breakout sessions that I wanted to go to one on suicide. And so the guy that was a clinical psychologist, and he was talking about how important it was to listen. So he said, we're going to breakout meeting, and this lady was one of the top psychologists in the country. And she's talking and giving her spiel. So there was break. Mm-hmm. All the doctors and psychologists left, went out to the break room. He walks up, says, are you contemplating suicide? And she was. Wow. He had picked up something because he listened and denoted something that triggered him to think, this gal's in trouble. Wow. All 4 other colleagues weren't listening. They went outside. If you're not listening, you're not caring. That's it. Well, that's whether your wife, your children, listening to your children. I have more fun listening to talking with little kids and getting into their world. They are so creative when they're young, and they'll tell you things and they make up stuff. It's hilarious. Yeah. But if you don't engage them,
yeah, I think that's the secret to networking. That's the secret to building relationships. I remember a course I took to college, and it was called public speaking. Mm-hmm. And we talked about what are the qualities of a good listener. And I'll never forget the professor said the first thing is to be able to shut out background noise, whether that's internal or external. So you have to be able to shut down your internal thoughts, of which we get thousands of them a day. You have to be able to shut out background noise on the outside. And she said, even if you're driving in the car and your significant other, your spouse is speaking to you and there's road construction going on, you have to be able to tone out that road construction, that background noise, and continue to listen to your spouse. And so in my life, I've taken it to that extent. And I remember so many times, whether it's an employee or a friend, and they're just sitting there and you're listening. And the more keen you are to listening, the more they open up and share with you and trust you. And it's even helped me with my clients and banking partners. it's extraordinary how much I feel like our society today lacks good listeners. And I've even considered starting a business, like online business, where it's an app or something where you just listen. But then I've learned that there's already apps out there that exist like that. Just a live person that can connect and listen to you talk. Transition.
Let me address one of the things in listen, and I'm painfully, I've done this before, but if I'm talking to somebody, like, let's say my grandson or somebody like it, or even an adult, and all of a sudden I see them start going this and look around, I'll shut up. I just shut up. I'll quit talking. And they'll say, well, what were you saying? Well, apparently you weren't interested.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Body language is powerful.
Well, and I mean, I'm not there to waste their time. If they really need something better, they don't need to listen to me. It's not about me. It's about me trying to get together and communicate. And, I do tell stories sometimes ad nauseam. I get that. But yet, and if the person doesn't want to say, hey, I've heard that before, shut up. I'm a big boy. I can take that.
Yeah.
But I remember one time I had a boss and I was talking with him and he was looking out the window and stuff. I just shut up and walked out. He says, well, where are you going? I said, well, apparently you're not there. I got to say, well, that's what back in my head.
Yeah. I want to talk about, we're learning what it's like, to, be successful in life and, whether that's listening and networking, these things and the people we grew up with are all detrimental to our success through our lives. But I've noticed every time I've met up with you, whether it's a factory tour or lunch at a country club or at a speaking engagement, you're dressed very unique and professional. What is the reasoning behind your outfits and what role do they play in your success?
Well, I like to dress down as much as anybody, but I think that out of respect for you or for anybody else that I'm with, I need to try to dress respectful. I mean, again, no particular reason. Today is kind of a casual day at work. So I do have jeans on, so you people can't see and this, but I'm very, very, very comfortable. And, for your attire, you're very comfortable. And I know that because I've been around you enough that I feel comfortable like this and know that you can accept me like this. So I just try to dress. There's a book called Dress for Success that I read 40 years ago, and it was okay at the time. But then cultures change, people change, but the adaptation to that culture isn't all that severe.
Yeah.
You just got to be where the people are. That's one thing interesting, speaking of that. Be where you are. Jesus was always there where he was.
Yeah.
Do you ever read in any of the Gospels where Jesus was someplace thinking about going someplace else?
Yeah. It's so powerful. I remember speaking to Governor Parson on this very topic, and he said, if I'm at the farm, I'm in jeans and boots, but if I'm in the office, he said, I respect the office. And he'll put on the suit and tie. And it's interesting today because it's kind of conflicting because, for example, my bank, right? I remember, the loan committee or the executives come by and they're jeans and regular outfits. I'm like, well, I kind of expect you guys to come in suit and tie, but I guess times are changing. So how does one like myself, where I'm caught between multiple generations of suit and tie to respect the office, to ripped jeans and a t-shirt that has, a big colorful rainbow on it? How do you adapt, in such a diverse range of clothing styles?
Well, I think the best example that I can give you based on a previous conversation is that, like when you're here, you dress like employees. They're out there working, they're hammered out, and unless you have some client, somebody, and then when you go to the National Prayer Breakfast, you want to dress casual, but you want to dress the way that you're comfortable.
Yeah.
I think that societies are going away from ties. I hate ties. I don't wear them much. made to.
Yeah.
But an open collar shirt and a sport coat suit, whatever, you know,
So what do you recommend I wear when I go to eat Trump?
I would say, well, if you're going to be personally meeting Trump, you probably want to dress like he's dressed.
Suit that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. What about church today? You know, we talk about dressing up for work and you know, different environments. What about church?
Well, tell me what kind of suit Jesus wore.
Oh, that's a good one.
Seriously. What did Jesus wear to the synagogue?
I think if I don't even know if I would be able to make an assumption.
Jesus wore what he wore every day.
Yeah.
He didn't have a purple band around him.
Or a robe. He definitely not a robe because he called them out on having robes. So he clearly didn't have a robe.
Jesus wore a basically cloth, I mean, the Bible is very clear, but in his outer garment, he had on four corners. This is, I think, Leviticus and Deuteronomy. He had four tassels, and the tassels had five knots representing the books of the Bible. Four tassels are to remember the Jewish men to remember God. And you really get into a really interesting scenario when you hear about the woman who was bleeding and touched his garment. We things that think he just reached and touched. No, she touched probably either the hem or its wings, where she's seeing its wings, or the tassel because she thought he was the Messiah.
Right.
And then what happened? Jesus says it very clearly. So I felt the power come out of me. So it's her, and then what does he say to her? Your faith healed.
Wow.
Boom. I think about, and if you look at it in the Jewish culture there, this poor woman was not, they didn't think much of her right now because she's bleeding. She's defiled probably a fourth of the community there. They got to go for 7 days, so they can't go in. So they're not happy with it. But the story doesn't get into that. But by the same token, she's been sick forever. Yeah. And he healed it right on the spot because of her faith. I think that's just fantastic. But Jesus just wore what he normally would wear. It wasn't about the clothing. It was about the message.
Wow. That's powerful. I've never heard it explained it that way.
Now, I mean, and I think that's another thing. If you wear a suit and tie, is that okay? Absolutely. If you come in ragged jeans with a hole and a beard, which we do, we have some people in our church, that's okay. It's okay. It's not about that. It's not about.
Would you draw a line on a spectrum of where you would, if a young man or young woman's coming to church, where you'd say, hey, that's crossing a line into immodesty and creating, something that may cause someone else to stumble? Or would you not put any attention to attire?
Well,
let's say for a man, if a man comes in like, the shorts, they keep getting shorter, not on the women, but on the men too. Have you noticed that? So imagine a young man coming in the really short shorts to church and like a tight t-shirt.
Well, the motive of why it's there is the most important. And, I think that I see young ladies coming to church with their families and very, very short shirts. That's on the parents.
Mm.
That's on the parents. That's indicative of what they think of their child.
Yeah.
And so, but is the gospel still going to be presented? Absolutely. Now, I do draw the line of people come in with a t-shirts with obscene things on it or things like that. I have a problem with that. And somebody needs to say something.
Yeah.
But I also have a problem, and I understand what Scripture says on this, but it's easy today to be tempted. I mean, you got pornography out the yin yang, you have all the stuff, and I'm not putting down alcohol or anything like that, but you have a lot of distractions. But to say you have beer and I'm an alcoholic, and so I have a beer and it's not your fault. You didn't make me do that. I chose to do it. So let's quit being a victim. quit trying to be victims. Listen, let's trust God.
That's very powerful. I agree to a large extent. You know, the way we respect the workforce for your work, and the way even our governor respects the office and our president respects the White House, we ought to respect the house of God, the people that attend there, whether it's a person first time visiting or whether it's a lifelong member. I think out of respect for the environment that we're a part of, we wear a certain attire, in addition to, of course, the values and beliefs that go behind it. What about just day to day? Like, what is, I know what Conrad looks day to day. You know, you're always wearing, either dressing up really nice. What is your go to day to day outfit?
Well, of course, 3 days a week, technically, go to banks. So I would wear something with bank logo on it. I guess that's the bank logos, slacks. And then if they're jean day, I'll wear jeans. But, be respectful. For example, if you're a new person walking in, seeking to like, I don't want to turn you off by my first impression.
Yeah.
And so, I'm always respectful for that. When I go play golf, I have a different attire, but it's just nothing disrespectful in the sense that, I may have a logo shirt on, bird shorts, and so on. But, kind of sometimes clothes can define you.
Yeah.
And so, or let's say, define your mood for that day.
Yeah.
I know sometimes I'm a mood dresser. I used to be, not so much anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. What about shoes? Do you have your famous? Yeah.
I got you. Famous shoe. I'm at a point now where I look at shoes as comfort more than style.
Yeah.
I mean, my feet have taken such a beating over the years. I just like comfort. Nothing wrong with style. Any of that. I think that someone's soul is so open, is so vulnerable. Why torment that? Why not let you be free? Why not support that person's soul and let them? They've got enough burdens on them. No place in other burdens on you. Jesus never did.
Amen. That's so powerful. Well, Conrad, I really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and sharing this wise counsel. It's continuing to shape not only my life, but the millions of listeners around the world that would be listening to this very podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We have a lot of really powerful interviews lined up for this year and the years to come. I want to tell you thank you from the bottom of my heart for following along on this journey. In the comment section below, comment your thoughts on this podcast. And if you want to be featured and get a chance to share your story, comment in the section below. Also, please drop in the comments who you want to see on this podcast, and we'll reach out to them and we'll share their story to continue to inspire you and your journey throughout life. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next one.